Hello everybody. Here we are, the last day of the year, and today we're going to have the Fusatsu ceremony, which is the renewal of our vows. And before the ceremony, I'll go over some of the details if you're not familiar with them. But today I wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions and what's the deal with them. I mean, why particularly at the end of the year, why don't we make them every day? But most New Year's resolutions that people make, or they might be able to fulfill them for a few days or a few weeks, and then they're soon forgotten. There's a famous American writer, Samuel Johnson, who lived in the 18th century, and he's probably best known for writing the first dictionary in the American English language, but he was also an essayist and very clever fellow. But when he was 65 years old, he was talking about all the resolutions that he made in his life. And he said, when I look back upon the resolutions of improvement and amendments, which have year after year been made and broken, either by negligence, forgetfulness, vicious idleness, casual interruption, or morbid infirmity, when I find that so much of my life has been stolen unprofitably away, and that I can describe by retrospection scarcely a single day properly and vigorously employed, why do I yet try to resolve again? I try because reformation is necessary and despair is criminal. I try in humble hope of the help of God. So one resolution that Samuel Johnson did keep, although he never stated it as much, is the resolution to keep resolving. And Johnson's determination to resolve on, in spite of his failures, is undoubtedly an explanation for all he managed to achieve. He was the familiar case of 2 steps forward and 1 step back, a halting progress, to be sure, but progress nonetheless. When one is progress, even revolutionary progress, anything other but uneven and incremental. And each year, Johnson would say, I've made it this far. I'm not dead yet. I still have a chance. So without an internal resolution, an external resolution will still fade. Is it true? Let me quote Thich Nhat Hanh. To meditate well, you have to smile a lot. I always say that a smile can be a practice, a kind of yoga practice, yoga of the mouth. You just smile, even if you don't feel joy. And you'll see that after you smile, you'll feel differently. Sometimes the mind takes the initiative. Sometimes you have to allow the body to take the initiative. Sometimes the spirit leads, and sometimes the body leads. So what if you don't feel like smiling? We've all seen family photos where the photographer tells everyone to smile, and they instruct, say cheese. Did they used to say cheese? They did when I did, yeah. and a smile would appear. It reminds me of the story of the German immigrants who were having their family photo taken, and the photographer said, cheese. And as he snapped the shot, they all said, Käse, which is German for cheese. It wasn't the best photo. Of course, saying cheese won't work unless you feel like smiling. And I have many family photos where both the kids and the adults look like they have 4 smiles. Yet, Thich Nhat Hanh persists, telling us to smile even when we don't feel like it. Here's another quote from him. Smiling is very important. If you are not able to smile, then the world would not have peace. It's not by going out for a demonstration against nuclear missiles that we can bring about peace. It is with our capacity of smiling, breathing, and being peace that we can make peace. Now, when I first read about these teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, I thought they were superficial. I thought it was like putting a cap on a tooth while it still had the decay. You have to remove the decay before you put on a cosmetic cap. Or I thought it was like putting frosting on a rotten cake. It might look good from the outside, but it would sicken you if you consumed the inside. Thus, I did not have a very positive opinion of metta practice, which is an important part of practice in a number of Buddhist sects. I never learned metta or loving kindness practice from my Zen training. I only encountered it later. So in business or in life, when we don't know what we're doing, the confident have a mantra. It says, fake it until you make it. Fake it till you make it. It's an English aphorism, which suggests that by imitating competence, or an optimistic mindset, a person can realize the qualities in their real life and achieve the results they seek. See? So if you don't feel like smiling, fake it until you make it. Is it okay to fake it until you make it? So fake it till you make it also compounds feelings of imposter syndrome, because saying that you're just faking it until you internalize will make you internalize negative beliefs about yourself. Once faking it becomes your de facto strategy to deal with feelings of fear, self-doubt, you start to deny your real skills and abilities. In fact, in the 1920s, the psychologist Alfred Adler developed a therapeutic technique he called acting as if, stating that if you want a quality, act as if you already have it. So pretending, forcing, or modeling behavior sends a signal from the unconscious to the higher stratosphere. Tricking the body in appropriate ways has been shown to alter the brain's mood, personality, and judgment. But don't overdo things. Act out of a genuine wish to improve, not simply to impress others. In other words, don't put on an act to hide the real you. Keep your intentions pure. You must be motivated from within. So loving kindness is a meditation practice taught by the Buddha to develop the mental habit of selfless or altruistic love. In the Dhammapada can be found the saying, hatred cannot coexist with loving kindness and dissipates if supplanted with thoughts based on loving kindness. So loving kindness is a meditation practice which brings about positive attitudinal changes as it systematically develops this quality of loving acceptance. It acts, as it were, as a form of self-psychotherapy, a way of healing the troubled mind, to free it from its pain and confusion. Of all Buddhist meditations, loving kindness has the immediate benefit of sweetening and changing old habitual negative patterns of mind. So I'm talking about this in the context of resolution, to practice loving thoughts. But here's what Sabine Selassie, who's a practitioner and teacher of this practice, says: the classic antidote for fear in Buddhist teachings is metta, or loving kindness. With loving kindness, we instill a sense of kindness, care, connection into our way of being that is profound in terms of shifting the energy of fear, both within us and around us. So on Saturdays, usually we have a morning service, and within the morning service, the officiant recites the loving kindness prayer, which goes like this: may all beings be happy, may all beings be safe, may all beings be healthy, may all beings be at ease. And then it ends, and for the sake of all beings, may we all be realized. Well, in loving kindness practice, the first thing we do is we direct this loving kindness towards ourselves, because usually the person that we're hardest on and we think the least of is ourselves. So we have to start with ourselves by reciting the following: may I be happy, may I be safe, may I be healthy, and may I be at ease. And of course, we do it in order to allow us to feel complete so that we can help others. Because after we chant this mantra for ourselves, we send these loving, caring words to other people. So we can start with a person that we respect and who's beloved to us, such as a spiritual teacher. And then we can send it to a dearly beloved, such as a close family member or friend. And then we can send it to a neutral person, somebody we know but we have no special feelings towards, such as the person who serves you in a shop. And then we have to send it towards a hostile person, someone who we are currently having difficulty with. And when you chant this mantra, you can put the name of a specific person in your chant. And if you repeat these phrases over and over like a mantra, you'll begin to feel a warmth surrounding your heart and a lightness in your being. So loving kindness is a heart meditation. It should not be seen as just a formal sitting practice removed from everyday life. So take your good vibes outside into the streets, at home, at work, and into your relationships, applying the practice to daily life. is a matter of directing a friendly attitude and having openness toward everyone you relate to without discrimination. In the morning zazen with the residents here at the Abbey, sometimes we chant the Metta Sutta or the Loving Kindness Sutra. And some of the lines go like this, and they're talking about somebody who manifests loving kindness or encourage them to manifest loving kindness. It says, let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, content and easily satisfied, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Let none deceive another or despise anyone in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. So, with a boundless heart, should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downward to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. So, if we repeat these things over and over again, of course, they can become part of our marrow, our bones, our flesh, our blood. But of course, our practice is to alleviate the suffering caused by the three poisons of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Sometimes we say greed, anger, and delusion, but anger can become turned to hatred, and anger responses, for example, can cause a ripple effect throughout the body. If one's an angry person, it can affect the cardiovascular system, your nervous system. It's all fair game, the anger, and these are just some of the main organ systems it can play havoc with. But then if it turns to rage, it can have effects on the arteries that supply blood to the heart. It can have an effect on the electrical system specifically that tells the heart when to beat. It can have an effect specifically on the heart muscle itself. Blood pressure can increase, blood vessels can constrict, inflammatory cells are released by the immune system. All of this can lead to ill effects. But in one sense, anger can have a positive physical effect if it helps motivate you to get up and do something. When you're angry and aroused, the brain is primed for fast reaction. If there's danger or a social threat that triggers an angry state, we're more likely to act on it. However, in that agitated state, you're less likely to make good judgments, to listen for certain information and be attuned to other motivations that are important for human-like values. You might often hear a person in an angry state say or do something that they don't really like. But when they're not angry, they will regret it and wish they hadn't done it. Yeah, and then there's other effects too, the link between emotions and stomach. like other feelings, anger and rage, can trigger gastrointestinal discomfort, malabsorption of food, and other effects in the gut. So our meditation is an important component of anger management and management of all of our poisonous behavior, including greed, pride, jealousy, and ignorance. So all of the metta mantras bring attention to the matter at hand and to remind us how sacred everything is. How attentive are we to the small details in our life? I heard one Zen teacher say that life is one small detail after another. So it's like the story of the three men who are building a cathedral. And one of them was asked what he was doing, and he said he was building a cathedral. And the next man was asked, and he said he was building a wall. And the third man was asked what he was doing, and he said he was laying bricks. So who was correct? I think all of them are correct. In order for them to do a good job, they must have all three tasks in mind. They have to lay each brick with precision and build one wall. And then when they lay more bricks and build another wall, eventually they'll have the cathedral that they're building. Let's look at another aspect of our practice, which, like a metta practice, can affect how we look at life. I want to talk about bowing or prostrations, because in the Fusatsu ceremony, we're going to do a lot of prostrations. Okay, so. I read about Kobun Chino, who's a modern Soto Zen master. He told a story of dropping to the floor, weeping in uncontrollable grief when, as a child, he received the news of his father's passing. And then when he rose to his feet, both he and the world seemed irrevocably changed. I think of bowing that way, he said. You go down, and when you come back up again, you're a different person. The world has changed. So when we bow, we just totally put ourselves into it. And then there's no separation between you and the three treasures, between you and life, and between you and death. Bowing practice, like metta practice, can have a profound effect on one's internal attitude through these external exercises. In certain Tibetan Buddhist traditions, the student has to do 100,000 full prostrations as part of an initial empowerment. So if you do 100 bows per day, it would take almost 3 years to complete 100,000. I heard that for busy Westerners, the number is 10,000 prostrations. So the duration is 3 months rather than 3 years. Still, it will have an effect. If the prostrations are approached as a sacred mindfulness practice rather than as an athletic endurance test. So that brings me to our precepts, that when we receive Jukai in our tradition, we are also receive certain precepts. They encourage behavior externally, just like loving kindness practice. If we practice that behavior described in the precepts, it becomes part of our makeup. It is just like practicing to ski or to sing or to dance. Our body integrates the moods and feelings. And when you study the precepts and become sensitive to them, you're aware of when you break them. And when you break a precept, you acknowledge it, take responsibility, and come back to practicing the precepts. It's like returning to your breath in Zazen. Let us consider the grave precept number 6. It says, I will unconditionally accept what each moment has to offer. This is the practice of not talking about others' errors and faults. I will acknowledge responsibility for everything in my life. I will see the perfection. So one of the 5 deadly sins in Buddhism is causing disharmony in the Sangha. Violating this precept is the best way to do that. There are many corrections we can do without finding fault and without being destructive. Talking about errors and faults is another symptom of the fragment itself. In the Genjo Koan, Dogen Zenji wrote, when the need is large, it's used largely. When the need is small, it's used in a small way. Thus, no creature ever comes short of its completeness. Wherever it stands, it does not fail to cover the ground. Thus, no one, however foolish they may be, does not fail to completely cover the ground. They are complete and lacking nothing. So what is the problem? When I first came to the Zen Center of Los Angeles, there was a wooden plaque at the entrance to the Zendo, where Maizumi Roshi had carved instructions. They read in part, let us be harmonious like milk dissolved in water. Temporarily, there are relationships of guest to master and juniors to seniors. However, eventually, all of us will be Buddhas forever. We should maintain the Buddha mind moment after moment. Let us not waste time. Time flies swiftly and nothing is dependable. Reflect upon the transiency of our lives. Do not blame or criticize others. Do not imitate the falsehood of others, but nourish your own virtue. Correct errors, but do not hate them. Let us be respectful to ourselves and others, as well as to the Buddha. Our Zazen is the Zazen of Buddhas, transcending both enlightenment and delusion. Let us be aware of this very fact. Let us be selfless and be ourselves and accomplish the great 4 vows together. And I saw that plaque every day for years when I came to the Zen Center in Los Angeles. There was another part to it that said, if you're not serious about this, you better keep out. Let's look at the seventh great precept, which says, I will speak what I perceive to be the truth without guilt or blame. This is a practice of not elevating myself and blaming others. I will give my best effort and accept the results. I will realize the self and others as one. It's a practice of not elevating myself and blaming others, putting myself above others and putting others down. When we violate this precept, it's to cover our own weakness and expose others. When we don't feel at ease with ourselves, when we fragment the self, we are driven to praise ourselves and abuse others. There is a collective disease in this country based on ignorance and fear. To feel good about their country, many Americans have to believe that the United States is the best in everything. It's a delusion from the perspective of the unfragmented true self. But it's also false in the relative world. Many countries have lower infant mortality rate than the United States. There is better and more affordable medical care outside the United States. The gap between rich and poor in this country is moving toward that of a third world country. So am I blaming people? I think that I'm just speaking what I perceive to be the truth. So what is it that keeps us on the path? Is it our resolutions? This year I'm going to get up and sit even if I don't feel like it. Rinzai is quoted as saying, when walking, just walk. When sitting, just sit. But above all, don't wobble. That don't wobble is the key to living a life of vows. I think don't wobble is the difference between a resolution and a vow. When Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he vowed, I will not rise until I attain complete awakening. Even though, he said, even though my blood may dry up and my body may wither, I will not arise until I attain complete awakening. Of course, he had spent 8 years as an ascetic doing some of the most extreme practices. And when he sat under the Bodhi tree for 7 days, on the morning of the 7th day, he saw the planet Venus, the morning star, and had his awakening experience. And of course, we had Rohatsu session earlier this month in order to commemorate that event and to sit with the Buddha. So I want to talk a little bit about what the difference is between a vow and a resolution, because we have the 4 vows, which we'll chant at the end of my talk, but also maintaining the precepts is a vow as well. But the vow, according to the dictionary, is a solemn promise or assertion. Specifically, one by which a person is bound to an act, service, or condition. So it's solemn, and solemn to me means sacred. And it's not just for oneself, it's to fulfill some kind of either an obligation or a desire, or a duty, or a calling. And a resolution, the definition means something that is resolved. So that's kind of like a circular definition. What does it mean? And they give an example, make a resolution to amend my ways. Or resolve means to reach a firm decision about something. So a vow is a solemn or sacred assertion or promise. It's serious, it's awe-inspiring. And a resolution is usually to correct some fault that we see in ourselves. It comes from a place of inadequacy, whereas a vow, in my view, reveals our true self. Let me quote Roshi Gerry Shishin, who's a good friend of ours, and is the one who actually empowered Roshi Shinko as a Roshi. She said, Zazen is a living vow. The vows themselves are fulfilled when our prajna wisdom explodes into being. This very body is the wisdom and love of the Tathagata. Nothing more is needed because we are so. Nothing can be lost because life is perfectly complete. Being bound by the painful duality of karmic life, pick up the vow to realize and live the life of unity, of one body. Do not wish that you are someone else or somewhere else, and do not blame others. Don't wobble. Life is as is. Maizumi Roshi used to say that our vows continue to live after we die. And Trungpa Rinpoche said that our bad habits continue to live after we die. So, what would you like to be your living legacy? Your vows or your bad habits? So let your resolutions, your New Year's resolutions, take care of your bad habits. And use your vows to allow your original face to shine forth, to illuminate the path for yourself and others, and to set an example that can be followed.